Alright guys, so welcome to today's video, and in today's video we will deal with the sword system for One Piece game right here. And in the last episode we have mainly dealt with equipping the sword, as you can see. So I'm able to equip the sword, and in this video we will work on unequipping the sword and on changing the sword style, okay? Alright. So with that being said, let's get right into this video. So, let's quickly start over by working on the unequipping. Okay, so for that purposes, we will do the following. So, we will clone this line right here, which fires to us this remote event, which results in equipping the sword. And we will now do the same for our unequipped right here, with the only difference that it is not supposed to apply the sword style, but it is supposed to de-equip the sword. So, or unequip the sword. So, unequip sword, okay? So that's our argument right here, and we can now clone this and then change this to unequip sword. And if the task is to unequip the sword, then we are going to unequip it by doing the following. So we have to check where the sword is being put into, and as you can see, we basically just clone the handle and paste it inside of our character. I think that we should call this this cloned sword, or this cloned handle, sword 1, sword 2, and sword 3, depends on what your sword style is. In this case, for the first sword style, we are going to call this sword 1. And yeah, so you might ask why. So why do you even want to change their names, and why do you not want to keep it as it is? So in this case, handle. The only reason for me to do it this way is because that I'm able to identify those objects within the character model as swords, okay? So having an object called sword makes me think that that's a sword, okay? That's the reason why. And we have to make use of this because we are going to loop through the character, okay? So where the swords are being put into at the end, and we are going to check if there is any instance called sword or which has the word sword in its name, okay? So the only 3 instances which are supposed to have that are sword 1, sword 2, and sword 3, which represent your first sword, your second sword, and your third sword, okay? And we are going to refer to them by looping through this, or by looping through your character where those swords are located at the end. And we are going to loop through every instance which is inside of your character, and we are going to check if any of those instances contain the word sword. Okay, so let me just check if this works, and if it works, then I'm gonna explain you what string.find actually does in this context. So I'm able to equip, and I'm able to unequip. Able to equip, able to unequip, and so on. Okay, so there's still this glitch, which is actually a result of us just equipping and unequipping too fast. But let me just explain you, so we are going to take care of the glitch later. So let me just explain you how the string find works in this context, okay? So we are looping through the character up here, and we want to check if the instance we are currently at, which is V, is the sword we are looking for. And to do that, we have already said that the characteristics of a sword in our game is that it either is called sword 1, 2, or 3, but has the word sword in its name, okay? And that's the main characteristics of our sword within this Explorers tab. And we can now make use of the string.find operation, which needs the string it is supposed to look through, which is our first argument, then the pattern it is supposed to look for, so the word or the pattern, the string pattern which it is supposed to look for, and then there are some more arguments which are not important in this context, because let me explain you how this works. So if it has found this pattern inside of this string, okay, so if there is the word sword inside of the instance's name, then it is going to give us the starting point and the ending point. Means the text, the return of the string.find operation will be, will be the starting point, means where the string starts. So 3 characters after your text or your string begins, 2, I don't know, maybe 8 characters. So those are just example numbers, but it is going to deliver you some starting and end points by integers, so by numbers. So 3 characters after the start and maybe 2 characters before it ends. Okay, those are just examples, but it is going to return something, and that's the most important thing. So if it returns something, then that means that this pattern has been found inside of this string, and this means that we have found the sword. Therefore, we only need to check if this whole thing returns something, because if it returns something, then this is within this. Therefore, this V is our sword, okay? And that's the idea of this check. So if string find returns something, means so this actually means that it is not nil, means it is not, let's say, empty, okay? And it is not empty when it returns something, okay? So that's the idea behind of it. And if this happens, then we are able to destroy the instance, because it is the sword we want to get rid of. Okay, and that's actually the idea behind of this. So that's the way on how you script this unequip code. We could of course add some animations to our sword style, equip, whatsoever. We can do that in a future episode, or maybe in further progress of this video, I don't know. And if we work with animations, then we of course need to add some additional stuff to this part of code. But let's focus on the sword styles now. So let me change back to this local script, and we now have to, where is it? Yeah, okay, so we now have to do the sword style stuff. So in order to change the sword style, or this was at least my idea, I thought about creating a key, or assigning this skill to a key, or this operation whatsoever. So making it key binded, okay? So if you press a certain key, then your sword style will change. So it will add one sword style to your current one. Means when you currently have sword style 1, means you have one sword equipped, then press a certain key which is supposed to increase your sword style or your amount of swords, then it will go from 1 to 2. So you'll have 2 swords in your arms. And the same with 2. So if you have 2, then it will increase to 3, and if you have 3, then it will decrease to 1, and so on. Okay, so that's the idea. And we just need to find a key for this whole thing. So since we are able to add some keys right here, so Q, R, T, and F have already been used for the skills, so we cannot use them. And since they are just basic keys on your keyboard, or let's say keys which are used frequently, I recommend you to use something like Control, Tab. Well, maybe not Tab, but you know, so some keys you encounter or you press rarely. So I actually think that I'm going to use Control in this context. So input key code, unum key code, left control. Alright, so we basically get the input and then, yeah, key code to check for a certain key. And then unum key code and then left control. So this determines the key we actually check for. And if we have pressed the left control key and equipped is true, so that's of course a requirement which the player has to meet, because if equipped is false, for example, means you have no sword equipped, but you still are able to use the key to change your sword style, then something is definitely wrong, because you try to change a sword style of a sword you haven't equipped, okay? If we, of course, consider the case when equipped is not being checked on or is, yeah, false. And, yeah, the next requirement is enabled false, of course. Okay, and if those things are the case, then we want to, yeah, add this enabled true and enabled false. You guys should know why. I have already explained it, so it is because of this enabled, which is our cooldown, okay? Now we should change this basic slash to change sword style. Okay. And sword style is our second argument right here. So I have already created this variable in the last episode, which basically represents our current sword style, which is at 1. And every time when we want to change our sword style, we are of course inserting the sword style we want to apply to our player. And you guys might think that when you start with 1 and yeah, click the left control button and then enter 1 right here, because sword style equals 1 as we have defined up here, then how are you changing the sword style? And that's actually yeah, a good point you have there. We of course need to increase the sword style by doing this. And as I've already told you, after 3 we want to decrease it back to 1. Therefore, if sword style is not greater than 3, then we want to increase it by doing this. And if it is greater than 3, means either equals 3 or is even greater than 3, but in this case only equals 3, because we will not allow this to go higher than 3, okay? So we will, of course, take care of it, but in theory, it would be possible. So in theory, I don't know, maybe for any reason, so when this would be 5, for example, for any unknown reason, then it would just be set back to 1. Okay. So that's the way on how you do this on the client's perspective. Now we will switch over to wait. I'm still change sword style thing to apply sword style, and do the following. So first of all, we have already implemented this check for all of the different sword styles. So this is for the first sword style, and we will now do the rest, means for the second and for the third sword style. And of course, in between all of those changes, we need to clear up things, because imagine, so you start with your first sword style and then you just equip your thing, your sword, and then you have 1 sword in your hand, and then you increase your sword style to 2, means we will go down here and we will apply 2 swords onto our arms. So we have already 1 sword on our arm, and now 1 sword comes on top of that, and we get another sword on our other arm. You know, so you have 3 swords in total. 2 overlap each other, and 1 sword is on your other arm. And you know, so that's not good. Therefore, we need to clear up things. So we need to clear the previous sword in order to apply the other swords, you know? So that's the reason why we will take this, because you guys should know that this is responsible for clearing up the swords which are currently equipped. So we will clear up the character from equipped swords every time we want to apply a new sword. Okay? Otherwise, it would otherwise the thing I've just described would happen. So you would have the case that your player has many swords in his or her arms, which just overlap each other, and yeah, that would look awful. Maybe not in this case because we only have one sword, but imagine that you have many players with many different swords, and then you have the case that you have two different swords in the same arm, you know, and they just differ in length, in appearance, and so on, and that would just look awful. Therefore, you always need to clear up the sword, or you need to clear up the previous sword before applying a new sword onto your arms. Alright, so this is for the first sword style. Now we will do else if val 2, then means for the second sword style. And yeah, we can just easily copy this and copy this again. And just put this up here. So if you have understood this code, then you should easily understand what I'm trying to do. And if you haven't understood this, then go ahead and watch the previous video. So we will just basically copy the sword and the weld code once again, but just apply it on the other arm, okay? And that's all about the second sword style, so there's nothing more into it. And do not forget to call your second sword sword 2, okay? And do not forget to change sword 1 dot value with sword 2 dot value. And do not forget to change the parent of your second weld and the part 1 of your second weld and the part 0 of your second weld, because we will now go from the left hand to the right hand. Okay, and let's check this out. Let's see if the second sword style works. Okay, so the... Oh my god, Zweit. Yeah, okay, there's actually an issue. So we have accidentally removed the tool. Yeah, so we have accidentally removed this tool, which has sword as well in its name. Therefore, we are adding another requirement right here, which is that the instance is not a tool. Okay, so if the instance has the word sword in its name and it's not a tool, then it's then the script can go ahead and destroy it. And yeah, otherwise we will get rid of our sword tool, which is not what we actually want to do. Okay, so we have pressed control, but where are the swords? Where are the swords? And yeah, control is already our sprint key. Maybe we should change this to something else. Maybe left control. Nah, maybe right shift. Come on. Right. So why didn't this work out as expected? Yeah, because I've entered val 2 instead of val 1. Alright. So come on. What was the key? Oh, now I have just applied a key, which doesn't work out as expected. Yeah, let's just go back to left control till this whole testing is over, till we have developed this code. Okay, nothing is not a valid member. Yeah, and there we go. So it has actually tried to refer to sword 2 value, and let me show you why this did not work out. And the reason is simple. So the reason is that our sword 2 is nothing. Okay, so we haven't applied any sword onto our second sword. Therefore, we have to do that. So sword 1 is a katana. Just copy this, clone it to our second sword, and then go ahead and have 2 swords right here. Alright, and now we have to do the same for the third sword style. And we do that by, of course, cloning this code right here, and now adding a 3 right here, and adding a third sword. Okay, and the third sword now is a little bit more complicated because, as you guys know, the third sword is in between the teeth or in the mouth of our character. That's the reason why, yeah, we have to, well, try out many positioning things, so many C-frames, till we actually get the perfect positioning of our sword. So 1. Okay, once again, it is nothing. Okay, 1, 2, okay, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we now have to rotate the third sword till it fits perfectly inside of our mouth. And that's, yeah, the difficult part, let's say. Is, yeah, you have to rotate and, you know, rotate, position, and experiment around a little. And I'm just gonna pause the video at this point, and I'm gonna come back when I have found out the correct C-frame, okay? So, see you. Alright guys, so I have found the correct C-frame, so you can just take this over if you want to. Of course, this only works with our katana right here. And yeah, so that's actually it for the third sword style. I just would like to mention one more issue you could probably experience if you use a different sword model, which we also do in yeah, in a future episode. So we will not only use this one katana, but we'll probably make some other swords in the next episodes. And yeah, so as you can see, this is how the third sword style looks like, and I can unequip from any sword style, so there is no restriction or anything, and it actually saves the sword style. It has been, it actually saves the sword style, which is actually pretty cool. And yeah, so let me explain you the issue I wanted to point out, and that has to do with the C-frame, okay? So this C-frame right here only applies for our katana. So if you go ahead and create or build another sword model and try to apply the C-frame on your sword model, then it could happen that, or it is pretty likely that it is not going to look as expected, okay? Because this C-frame is or can be only applied to our katana model, and that's the issue with all of these yeah, sword styles. So for every new sword model, you have to create a new C-frame. Okay, that's, well, one disadvantage of using this method right here I have presented to you. But yeah, so that's the price you have to pay. Okay, so thank you for watching this video, guys. If you have liked this video, then please leave a like, subscribe, share this video with all of your friends, leave me feedback in the comment section. And one more thing I would like to point out: so if you have any building skills and you would like to contribute to the community, then I would really appreciate it if you could build a small map, maybe not too detailed, but you can of course go ahead and make it pretty detailed if you want to. But I would like to use a subscribers map for this One Piece series. Okay, so if you have any building skills and you want to contribute to the community and you want to create a map for this One Piece Season 2 series, then yeah, leave a comment in the comment section saying so, that you would like to create a map or build a map, and leave me your Discord details, and I'm gonna contact you on Discord with further information, okay? Because I'm honest with you, so I want the series to actually focus on the scripting, okay? So I barely want to build myself, because I think that building is something many developers yeah, know about and already have some skill, okay? But scripting is an aspect of developing which yeah, which you have to learn, okay? And building can be just easily done, you know. So every developer has some sort of building experience and building skills, but not everyone has some kind of scripting skills, okay? All right, so with that being said, take care and see you in the next video.